Alright, so as you can see, we got a lot pretty much done. I've had a lot of fucking wiring issues in the last couple of days. I think I got everything sorted out. I'm gonna try to start this thing, see what happens. Set this camera up right here. Oh, see if it starts. Fucker. Oh, small battery. Okay, we're back. I'm just here, just straight up now, having a good time. I have everything wired up. The car just won't start. I don't know what the hell's going on. It's losing crank signal after like 5-10 seconds of cranking. It like wants to start, it'll fucking backfire and pop. I have video of it I can insert here. I'm gonna try to change the crank sensor right now from my old motor that I know was good. Sorry, I'm trying to hook up my tools here. So we're gonna change the crank sensor. See if that does anything. There's a brand new crank sensor that's in here, but who knows, it could be bad. It's from eBay, so I'm gonna pull the starter out, change the crank sensor, and we'll go from there. So I just pulled the crank sensor I had in there. As you can see, there's two tiny little grooves in there like it was hitting the reluctant wheel. And I also noticed, because I pulled the old crank sensor out of my old motor, if you line these two up, exact same spot where the spot sits on the block. It's kind of hard to do with one hand. I'll do this one hand. See how one's significantly longer than the other one? I can barely talk, it's so early in the morning. So I'm thinking this one was way too long and it was just hitting the crank. And that was why I was getting intermediate. I'm gonna try this one, see what happens. It finally fucking started. Jesus Christ. I'm waiting for some new oil to show up so I can change the oil. I spent way too much money on this new motor. It kind of smells like fuel a little bit. I don't need to wash the brand new bearings out. So I'm gonna change the oil. As soon as that's done, I'll start it back up, let you guys hear it, and let it run for a little bit. Get up to temperature and shit, check everything, make sure there's no leaks. This is day 3 of this video. I just wanted to put it all in a summary of what happened with the electrical issues of this car. Alright, so everything works now, for the most part. Still have a couple small things to finish up on the wiring to make it 100%. But I took apart my original harness that I had made from Wiring Specialties. Where the hell I put it? Alright, this is the harness I had made a few years ago when I first LS swapped the car. It was made by Wiring Specialties in Connecticut. It's got a CAN bus module that converts the... Don't mind the AC noise. It's got a CAN bus module that converts the Infinity CAN bus to work with all the LS stuff, so the push button start and all that. So I cut this whole harness up so I could pull apart the CAN bus part and the part that plugs into the factory side of the car, so I could still use the push button start and shit. So I got that in here already. Let me grab a light. Hold on. Don't mind the mess. I've been trying to deal with all this electrical bullshit for the past few days. I still gotta clean everything up. I had the ECU already mounted, but I had to cut it all out just to get some room in here. This is the original CAN bus module from the Wiring Specialty harness and half the harness side. I took that off so I could still utilize the push button start on the everything turns on. You gotta push the clutch in to use the starter, but that's what it looks like so far. I gotta finish mounting this one screen right here. I have a mount coming that should be like right there once it's mounted. What else? Alright, so start with the issues. I had all the push button start. We were ready to start it. Fired it a few times just to crank it up to get the oil pressure going. And then we put the injectors back in, plugged them back in so it would get gas, and then we tried to fire it up, and then fucking thing burnt out. I thought it burnt the BCM. It would only turn on right here on this button. It would only say accessory and then on, and it wouldn't even turn off. You'd have to disconnect the battery. I checked every fuse, relay, everything in this car. There's another fuse box down there. There's fuse boxes and relays down here. Went to the junkyard and got all new fuse boxes, relays, checked everything. Still couldn't get the thing to work, so I thought it was the BCM. I was going to bring it to the dealer. So I started wiring fuel pumps and accidentally touched this wire from here to here. And then the door's locked and the alarm started going off. So then I realized this fuse right here was blown. You can't even tell. I had a flashlight up to it like 3-4 times. It's like barely blown in the middle. So that fixed that, and then the car's locked. So I had to break inside the car. Then we got the car on, started cranking it, and this is what you see in the beginning of this video. It's just cranking and won't start. Sounds like it wants to start, backfires. Then I figured out the crank sensor issue, fixed that, fired right up, but it was still blowing fucking smoke, like tons of fucking raw fuel was coming out. It was just running like shit. Only let it run for 3 to 5 seconds, shut it off. Tried to figure it out. It's because it was only on the software was on the first, whatever the hell it was, and needed to be the firmware needed to be updated on the Terminator X. Took me forever to figure that out. I had to save it to the SD card, take the SD card out, put it in the computer, this, that, and the other thing. Finally, I got it to work. And download it on the SD card, put it back in the screen, update the firmware, and then reselect a new file. And then I finally got the injector data I needed for the new Snake Eater 210s. Because I just typed in the 1500s, that was the only ones, and it was just dumping way too much fuel and it wasn't right. So I didn't want to run it long and ruin the motor or anything. So, got that all fixed, downloaded it, boom, started it up, and it runs good. Let's start this thing up. It's got no seat in it right now, but push the clutch in, hit the button. shuts off. Everything works in the car, the windows, the headlights, blinkers, everything works still. Alright, so the only thing I gotta finish up is the switches for the fans in the front. I gotta run one more relay for the third fuel pump for when I'm driving a little crazy. I have 2 fuel pumps on the main side and a billet basket that feeds the motor. And then I have, because it's a saddle tank, I have another pump in here. Donuts or whatever, burnouts, racing. Turn that on so that side's always feeding the feed side of the tank, so there's always fuel on that side. Never starves it. So after I wire that, and then I gotta wire the one relay for the intercooler pump and the ice box in the back. And that should be it for wiring. Clean all this mess up. Put the interior back together. Then I gotta wire the boost controller. And that's the last thing, which is easy. Just figure out where I'm gonna mount the Mac valve and then wire it to the input outputs on the Holley harness. I do have a small leak in the radiator. I don't know where, somewhere up the top, one of these fins or something. It's leaking down. I really don't have the time or the money to fix this right now, so I'm gonna wait till after the dyno, because it still holds most of the antifreeze. So I'll just top it off before dyno session. We'll fix that later. This was leaking a tiny bit yesterday, but loosened it and readjusted it, tightened it. I don't really see any leaks now. Just keep an eye on that. There's no power steering leaks. We checked that, bled that, turned it both ways, topped the fluid off. Yeah, it's still good. It seemed to be temperature-wise good. I read it run for like 5-10 minutes yesterday. I only really got up to 178, 180-ish without the fans on. Alright, so now that it runs, I finished up all the small stuff. The cosmetic stuff, I'll get all this side pieces back on so it looks factory. Covers up all this nasty wiring mess. What else? Next video, I'll probably take it for a ride before I go for the dyno. Just around the block and stuff, make sure everything's good. Clutch. Breaking the clutch a little bit. But this nightmare's almost over. Finally got it running good. Starts. Everything works inside the car. Just finish up the last of the wiring. And then we'll get ready for the dyno. See what it's gonna make. Thanks for watching.